Whether it's The Binding of Isaac, Risk of Rain, or Hades, most people have heard of or played a roguelike before. But what about the games no one has heard of? So many amazing or not so amazing games get swept under the rug every year, and I want to show off some of the underappreciated and unknown games out there. But before we get started, I want to lay down the ground rules of what I think makes a game a roguelike. 1. Procedurally generated levels. Basically, this means that the levels and their layout is random. And 2. Permadeath, meaning once you die, you lose everything and have to restart. Now, it doesn't matter if it's a top-down shooter, deck builder, platformer, or even a horror game. Any genre can realistically be a roguelike, which creates endless possibilities. The only thing stopping you is your imagination. So without further ado, let's get into our first game. OTXO has 1.6 thousand reviews and is akin to Hotline Miami. But instead of describing the game, I'm going to show you how a run of OTXO typically plays out. You wake up on a beach, wondering how you got there, and in front of you is a huge mansion. Feeling weak, you head over to the bar. Sorry, sir, no weapons allowed at the bar. You toss it to the side and order a drink. You feel like you can take on the world. So you head deeper inside the mansion and... Holy shit, this is the best gunplay of any roguelike I've ever played. I seriously cannot understand why a game with an insane soundtrack, crazy gunplay, and a great story only has 1.6 thousand reviews. While sure, that's no number to scoff at, and it's the most reviews of any game in this video, OTXO deserves so much more attention. Now, let's get into the mechanics of the game. First, we have the combat mechanics, which include movement and gunplay. Your only movement options in OTXO are a dodge roll and bullet time, a slow motion effect. The gunplay hosts the ability to pick up and throw weapons, and the limited ammo of each gun forces you to always think about what enemies are around and what guns are nearby. I think my favorite part of this game is easily the sound design. The crunch of crippling bodies as they hit the floor, the explosiveness of firing each and every weapon, and the adrenaline-inducing soundtrack just elevate the experience to the next level. When I was trying to come up with a negative I had towards OTXO, I genuinely had a hard time. The only real negative I could even nitpick is that I wish there was more boss diversity. But even then, every boss is unique and stands well on its own. So while it might be nice if there were more bosses, the bosses that are in the game are executed so well that it doesn't hinder the experience. Our second game only has 7 reviews and is probably the most unique take on combat in an action roguelike I've personally seen. In Wetory, you play as a child who can create watercolors from their feet, who sets off to restore the palette of the world that was stolen away by a mysterious villain. The combat in this game is based around your positioning, so as you paint the ground, your abilities will aim at your character, transforming the gameplay into a dance of weaving in and out of the enemy's reach to avoid and dish out damage. You start with black paint, which is used to refresh your dash, and red paint, which serves as your first attack. Every stage you complete nets you a new paint color. These different colors serve as unique abilities, each with 4 upgrades that change each one pretty drastically. At the start, it can feel a bit awkward, but once you get comfortable, it's pretty fun. Overall, I love the way that this game is presented. The backgrounds and stages being bleak and devoid of color, combined with your character, attacks, and enemies all popping out on each stage, really helps add to the story of the game, but also adds the needed clarity in combat. Everything is so cute and pretty to look at. The satisfying splashing sound effects while using your paint and a chill soundtrack really make this game stand out to me. The feature that stands out the most is its art style and general presentation. In particular, the boss designs are so unique and full of personality, which makes them the best in my opinion. The worst parts of Wetory would be some obnoxious enemies in the last stage of the game, as well as a glitch that prevented me from getting achievements. That being said, these are minor flaws, and I still think Wetory is a wonderful game. To close out the video, I have West of Dead. It has 800 reviews and is a top-down strategic shooter that uses a dark, almost horror take on the Western theme. Set in Purgatory, 1888, West of Dead has you play as William Mason, a dead man who has some unfinished business to take care of. So, first things first. The main character is voiced by Ron Perlman. Yeah, that Ron Perlman. Fucking Hellboy is our main character. So of course, the voice acting for William is insanely well done. As someone who always skips dialogue in games, even I sat around and listened to every little detail. This is one of the best takes on a Western theme, and as someone who is definitely more interested in horror than Westerns, the mix of the two was a surprisingly nice combo that led to a consistently great atmosphere. Now, let's talk gameplay. West of Dead gives you a dodge roll and the ability to duck behind cover. While simplistic, it gives you all the freedom you need to maneuver through the game and doesn't overcomplicate things. The combat is based around using the terrain and taking your shots sparingly, which almost makes it feel like a turn-based shooter, but in real time. I know that statement makes no sense, but just go play the game and you'll get what I mean. One thing I do want to mention is that there are some glitches where you can't move periodically or are completely invisible until the end of the level. While these aren't game-breaking, they can be a little annoying and break the immersion. I'd say the best part about the game is the combat loop of each room. It feels very smooth and was intuitive even as someone who hasn't played a ton of strategic shooters. If you're a fan of westerns, dark settings, or strategic combat, West of Dead is for you. I had a blast playing all these games, and it felt good to get out of my comfort zone, trying games that seemingly no one has heard of. If any of these games seemed interesting to you, go check them out. All the links to the games are in the description. If you want to see this become a series, leave a like or let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoy this type of content, consider subscribing. It helps me a lot and allows me to grow. But until next time, I hope you have a good day.